Hi guys at Fastco. It's Lane Coleman here at Costar, and this video is intended to show you our typical workflow inside of our application for a punch-out style integration. And there are multiple touch points, if you will, inside of our application in order to leverage a punch-out style integration. And really where that starts in our application, so for step one really is in Costar, we set up each supplier in supplier maintenance. Okay, so on my example here, I'm going to use Napa. So I'm going to go into the Napa supplier record inside of Costar. And once this supplier is set up, and this would be set up for Fastco at each one of the dealers, I'm going to go on to the purchasing tab here. And under our supplier connection type box, this is where we define the settings or the properties that we use for any direct integrations. So under here, you can see we have a number of direct integrations that we can leverage, and we would create a new one for Fastco. The second thing that important piece of information that we would want to do here is we would want to have a setup or configuration point for each store. So this is where it comes into the discussion around authentication. So we will set up for that unique connection type, we will set up maybe a custom URL that we go to, and the log-on username and password for that potential customer or shop that's going to be accessing your system through Costar. So in here we will have branch connections. This is one of the because some of our customers will have more than one store in their Costar system, and therefore we kind of have to pay attention to which one of their locations is ordering, and so you may have unique credentials per store, and this is where we would sort of set those up. The other element that's involved in setup is under our settings menu. Under our order entry options submenu, we, for many integration partners, will have a tab here where we will set up their particular URLs. So for all data, for example, here you can see we have URLs defined in the system here, and this is basically the path to their web portal. Okay, so those are the setup things that pertain to authentication. Once those things are in place and that integration is enabled in Costar, when I come into an order entry document or a point of sale document, such as a repair order, I'm going to start a new one here. When we go into this screen, we're going to define the dealer is going to define their customer's name and address and vehicle details. And when they come to the lower half of the screen on the estimate here, this is where they're going to go into the different types of integrations. Okay, so we will have a new box on this tab called Fastco. When that is clicked, we will drill into it. And this is what I refer to a punch-out style of integration. This ProLink SE interface is an HTML or web interface that Napa supplies to us at Costar, and we build, we build inside of this window. And from once we're inside of the ProLink SE interface, anything that we do and select, this is actually happening on Napa's side, or in your case, this would be the Fastco ordering portal, or Fast Finder, I think you refer to it as. So we would launch into that web page inside of here. Now there are there's one step that I've glossed over here. I'm going to cancel this and go back to my document. Now, when I define a vehicle in Costar, I can use multiple vehicle selectors to do that. In this case, I've got Napa set as my default. So if I go into a particular vehicle, and I'm going to go into one that I haven't done before, I'm going to select a vehicle and add it to the document. Then once I have that vehicle defined, when I go into an integration, let's go back into our Napa here now, we will get that vehicle passed through to the integration. Now, this is a step that we may not want to do with Fastco. We may just want to ignore that vehicle pass in because we may not be able to pass it in a format that your system will accept. And you may not have facility in your website to receive a vehicle inbound. And that's fine. We'll just skip that step and have the dealer select the year, make, model inside of your interface instead of Costar passing it in. But I wanted to mention it to you just so that you knew that we have the facility to pass the vehicle in if we need to. Okay, so once we're here inside of the punch out, the vehicle is defined, we can now start to search for whatever we want. In the case of Fastco, obviously it would be wheels and accessory components that you sell. In this case, I'm going to search for a battery inside of Napa. Let's try again. Okay, well, I'll grab these brake parts instead. So I'm going to go down and select something new here. I'll put a couple of those on, click transfer, and that will then put those selections into the Napa shopping cart. Okay, so now I will go back to my main screen here, or maybe I will do a new search, and this time I'll search for belts for this vehicle. So I'll select one of these, transfer. Again, it adds it to the selections, or it puts it in the shopping cart inside of ProLink SE. Okay, so this is where we get to the next step of the discussion. Once the selections have been added to the shopping cart inside of the punch out, Costar needs a mechanism to bring those components out of the shopping cart in your portal down into our system. In this case in Napa, this represents our shopping cart up here on the left-hand column. And when I click Add to Document, it's going to bring those parts back into Costar one at a time. So it will bring down this appropriate, any one of these pieces of information could be passed in to the Costar system. So this is what I've broken down in the email that I've sent you in terms of the possible pieces of information that we would expect to receive on our side. Definitely we need part number. Definitely we need a description. The product type is something that the dealer will select. These are the classifications of inventory inside of Costar. They will have to define that when they bring it in. The supplier, in this case is indicated as Napa, would obviously be Fastco. You could bring in any associated supplier item numbers, manufacturer, model, sizes, etc. Those fields could also be passed from the cart into Costar, and they would then be completed here if we were passing that information in. Again, last most important thing is cost. The dealer's buying cost has to come out of your shopping cart into Costar. Okay, now we click Add Item. Okay, then it will bring the next part down. So if they've selected more than one thing, it just brings the next one in the list down. So in this case, it's belts, so I'll define that. And you can see, again, I could have a supplier item number, a manufacturer, model, etc. also defined. In this case, Napa isn't passing me that information, but I would suggest we pass as much information as we can. Then comes in the cost. I click Add Item. Okay. Once I have those items brought down into Costar, the Costar system will automatically mark them up to the retail selling prices that the dealer would want. And you can see I will have a red bar next to each item that I've brought down. Why is that? Because that indicates to the dealer that that part is required to order. Okay, so now once I've brought those parts into the system, I can get approval from my customer to go ahead with the work, and now I want to order those parts. Okay, so to order them, that's why the check stock button is flashing at the bottom of the screen here. Okay, so I hit check stock. And all the items that are required to order on this document will be presented in a list. So you can see I've got my brake rotors and I've got the belts that I brought down, both from supplier Napa. Okay, at this point I can hit create POs, and what will happen is Costar will create a purchase order automatically for tracking this order with this supplier. Okay, I can click show PO and see that actual purchase order, or I can just click send at this point. So at this point, what's happening when I press send, it's going to deliver this order for these 3 parts, okay, 2 brake rotors and 1 belt. It's going to pass that order automatically through an API into Napa. Okay, so I click send and away it goes. I get a confirmation back through the API that says that order has been sent and the status of my item is updated in my Costar system as being sent. Okay, so the order has now been placed with Napa in this example, or would have been placed with Fastco through your API that you'll provide to Costar, and we'll just deliver the order behind the scenes seamlessly without having to go back in and access the shopping cart or the punch-out interface. I'll just deliver the order electronically behind the scenes through your API, and it'll land just like every other order will land in your system that may have come in through your portal. Okay, so that is the workflow that we typically use in Costar for going into a punch-out, selecting parts, bringing those parts back to a Costar repair order, and then delivering the order to the supplier through the check stock functionality on the repair order. The last leg of the journey for the dealer will be when the shipment arrives in their shop, they will receive these goods. Well, they can do that from inside of here. The PO that was created automatically for the order of these parts will be accessible. So you see, here's the purchase order that was automatically generated in Costar to track the order for the 2 brake rotors and the belt. Okay. Now all they have to do is they can enter the details about the invoice, so they can put your invoice details in and it'll set up the payable, or they can turn that off, and then they can press receipt. And when they got to enter the receipt quantity saying I got 2 of them and I got 1 of them in my shipment. So now I'll receive these. Okay, it'll ask them for the packing slip number. I can click OK. It'll ask them if they want to print a receipt document to staple to the paperwork. In this case, I'll skip it. And now they will return to the Costar repair order, and the items are flagged green on the bar, which indicates that those parts have been received. So that's the complete ordering loop that we like to provide for all the integration partners that we connect with in Costar. That's what we do for tires, that's what we do for parts, that's what we do for wheels, and we would just be adding another direct integration for Fastco inside of our application that we could then allow the dealers to order directly from you. Okay, I hope that kind of clarifies the whole process. If you have any questions around that, don't hesitate to reach out to me and we'll discuss it further. Thanks very much.